Welcome to episode 248 of the Workshoot Wrestling Podcast. Happy Friday the 13th. This is Corey Richmond, joined as always by Jason Brooks. Jason, this would have been the 15th anniversary of the death of one of the greatest wrestlers of our lifetimes, Eddie Guerrero, Latino Heat. But as we come on the air today, about 45 minutes ago, we found out from many reliable sources, including WWE.com themselves, that valet to many of the best Latino wrestlers the last couple of years, Zelina Vega, has been released basically 10 minutes after putting on Twitter today that she supports unionization. Jay, we were going to talk about a lot of interesting things. Shaquille O'Neal coming in, Fallout, Full Gear, Leon Ruff basically becoming a comic champion on NXT, but all of that's blown out of the water. What's your, immediate thoughts right off the top with Zelina Vega gone from WWE? I don't think this is a storyline thing like, our last set of cuts.
No, they just
straight Maverick.
So we've talked about this for a long time. You mentioned unionization. You mentioned unions. We had David Starr on before his allegations.
Yeah,
and, the one thing he said, listen, whatever, right? But him talking about unions is something that got him blackballed from many major companies. That's legit. That's absolutely a thing. These guys are independent contractors, except when they're not independent contractors. Like, I've never heard of such a thing. And wrestling has been around for years and years and years. It's 2020. Yet these guys still can't form a union. These guys still don't really have rights. Once they're released from their contract, they don't get medical help anymore. And we know how many of these guys suffer from really, really bad medical problems after their career's over, right? So, we're talking about something where these guys are not protected, men and women. And obviously this is more about Twitch, because Twitch is like, you can, I don't know shit about Twitch, but apparently, you can have people give you money to, watch you play video games or whatever. And I know Zelina Vega is a big video game person, as well as Paige, who's also been very upset about this. Here's the thing. You mentioned unions in wrestling, especially in the WWE, you're going to get released. That's just the way it is. I wonder if Zelina knew that when she said that. I think maybe she did. But I also know, it's been her dream to be in the WWE. She's been an excellent, manager. It's a bummer. But Vince is all ruling. And you mention unions in wrestling, and you're not going to have a job in wrestling, especially the WWE. That it's horrible. It's shitty. But that's the way that it is.
It's one of those things where over the last month or two, we've had, former presidential candidate Andrew Yang has come out saying if President-elect Joe Biden won and if he was put into his cabinet, he would go, and one of the things he would do would try to go to help professional wrestlers unionize, because he was, a fan of wrestling when he was a kid, and he realizes the bad treatment they've had. As far as we know, as of right now, he's not going to be in the cabinet for
which is a bummer, by the way. He's a really, really smart guy with good ideas.
Absolutely. And we'll see how much of a say Andrew Yang has, and if any steam comes about with the fact of Joe Biden in office and everything else going on that end. We'll see there, and how much Andrew Yang can actually do now that he might have a little bit more say in the matter. But what's going to happen in the future with Zelina Vega outside of WWE and going forward with other people? A guy like, AJ Styles is making so much money in WWE right now as a top guy. He doesn't need that extra money from Twitch. He has spoken in the past where being able to interact with the fans is something where he can go and just use it as a relaxation thing where he doesn't have to think about everything else and just hang out with the fans, take questions, play video games, just have a little bit more, time to himself. That's one thing. But a person like we've spoken about off air, and I don't, maybe once, twice on air, like Paige, who's broken her neck twice for this company, can no longer wrestle. And so a lot of people have said she makes more money on Twitch than she actually makes on her quote-unquote WWE Legends or whatever her actual deal is, WWF. They're telling her she's got to shut down her page, and, you know, she could be next to go. You know, it's still a very...
Corey, she's an independent... How can you tell someone they can't make money outside of your company if they're independent? It doesn't make sense to me. Legally, it makes no sense to me.
Absolutely. I mean, you got the same thing. I mean, like I said, we're not trying to get totally off subject, and I believe the thing failed, but in California this past year on the docket for when it comes to election, you had the stuff with Uber where they were trying to go get people to become independent contractors, and Uber basically said if that passed, they would basically stop doing Uber in the state of California because they said it would possibly cripple them as a company. I mean, that's for another subject on how much it would have actually cost them, this or that. But this is something where, like Andrew Yang had said.
But, you know, and Corey, this is a lot different than being in, you know, Uber drivers. That, you know, again, we could talk about that, right?
I mean, with the pandemic, these people's actual income now, but
yeah, absolutely. But in terms of these people are putting their bodies on the line every day that they're out there, and we see it with what happened with Kamala, Tracy Smothers. These guys are dying early. These men and women are dying early, and they're a lot of these men and women are struggling toward the end of their lives. And they're not protected. So, you know, listen, and to say, and we talk about, it's so funny, you know, we talk about America and freedom, and I don't want to get too much into politics, but one party is, you know, all about, well, you know, no one has freedom, whatever. And then another party is like, oh, well, we need to give everybody more freedom. Vince McMahon is a big fan of one of those parties, and he's shutting everything down with his employees. To me, it doesn't make any sense. Why not have them be on Twitch? Why not have them, you know, do their thing? That might make them even more popular. Like, that doesn't make now if they're, you know, doing like porn or something like that, you know what I mean? Like, and it's a kid's, or, you know, company, or maybe they say, hey, you can't do crazy stuff on Twitch, or
they already
you know what I mean?
Sullivan's still employed, but that's no subject.
I mean, there's things that they could do. There's things that they could do to monitor, like how crazy it gets or whatever, right? But come on, you're telling me someone can't go make a couple of bucks doing something? It's insane. That's like telling Aaron Rodgers, hey, you can't do the State Farm commercials. What? That's crazy.
Right. I mean, and let's be honest here. I mean, like, you've got Zelina Vega. Yeah, it's come out where, yeah, she had, and we've spoken about it on our sister podcast, You Don't Know Jackie, the idea with like OnlyFans. Not all OnlyFans are, you know, men and women, you know, doing, you know, pornographic material. You've got Zelina Vega where she has an OnlyFans, but she does cosplay, where she's very big into like with the gaming and stuff, where she does different characters and, you know, costumes and stuff, where people are paying to go see, you know, her pictures and stuff. Sure. Are there some, you know, creepy old guys who just want to see, you know, a hot Latina chick and, you know, in costumes? Sure.
Or not an old creepy guy. Maybe one of us, right? I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm not a Twitch guy, but here's the thing. They are not saying you can't do this because it's pornographic or because whatever. They're saying it because they can. Because they can, they're doing it. Or, you know, I think they use the term, they use something like, you know, it's not on brand for the WWE, or you know, I think they've used that before. But AJ talking to fans, you know, talking about the earth being flat, if he wants to do that and someone paying money to do that, let him do it. Like, I think it's insane. I feel bad for Zelina Vega. I wonder how this is going to affect Aleister Black and where he's at. You know, obviously you guys may know, you know, they're married. I don't know what you do. I don't know, you know, what's going to happen next, but it's a shame. It's a shame for WWE to lose talented people, especially talented people on the mic, and especially women. And they lost a really talented woman on the mic. She wasn't a disaster in the ring. She wasn't great, but she was okay. And I think she was, you know, she possibly could have really improved and probably would have been a women's champion at some point. So, you know, it's you know, it's a bummer.
I mean, and you think about this quickly before we move on to some other things. You spoke about her husband, Aleister Black, the former Tommy End on the Independents. Since the draft, him and both of them were drafted to SmackDown. You haven't seen either one of them on SmackDown yet. You had Rusev, the former Miro, go over to AEW. Since then, you could say that Lana is being put over and becoming a babyface in peril that people are going to care about. It's been put through tables for the last 8 straight weeks. What's the chances we see Aleister Black, all of a sudden, be put through a table tonight if he's actually on the show? I mean, we'll see how,
I mean, whatever, right? That's all speculation. Like we don't know what's going to happen.
You know,
there,
you know what I'm saying, though. We see how he gets treated.
I mean, they weren't doing anything with him. I still remember my buddy Steve saying he saw his entrance, he watched him wrestle. He's like, oh, they can't mess that guy up. I said, Steve. I said, do you know Vince McMahon? Right? And he should be. It's. I mean, what they've done with his career is ridiculous too.
Criminal.
It's. How could they not make a guy who looks like him, who the fans like, who's a real, just different character?
He's a badass. He looks like a badass. He looks like a
badass. He wrestles like a badass. He's good on the mic in his limited roles. How they could not make him a star? Whatever. All right, let's move on. Let's hope Zelina. I mean, she's gonna go to AEW.
Actually, let's talk about that quickly before we move on to the other stories of the week.
All right.
Before she was in WWE, she was basically I think she's about to turn 30 this year. 10 years ago, she was in at the time Impact Wrestling. She's a former Impact tag team champion. Impact is bringing back the women's tag team titles. Former tag team titles.
She's not going to Impact.
You don't think she can go to Impact even short term before she goes back? They're gonna have a tournament there. You got MLW with Zelina Vega.
Why wouldn't she go to Why wouldn't she go to AEW? It'd be insane for AEW not to sign her. I mean, I love Impact and I watch it every week, and the show's actually pretty entertaining. And their women's division their women and tag divisions are the best part of the show. But I mean, who knows? It's up to her. She could do what she wants. And, maybe you make a good point. Maybe it's I'm jumping a gun here a little bit. Deanna Purrazzo didn't go to AEW. She went to Impact, and she's been very successful there. They have a pay-per-view or Impact Plus show tomorrow. She's going after the title. Turning Point, yep. So, I mean, we'll see. I just don't think it's – I actually think it's not a great move to go to Impact because there's so many women already there. It'd be hard for her to really climb up the ladder. I mean, not for nothing, Corey. She is not better than most of the women there in terms of in the ring. Like, she's really far behind. Whereas you go to AEW, and if they can highlight some women who we've never heard of, Jade Cargill, in a I think pretty bad segment, they can put Zelina on there immediately, and she's going to be a big deal. And I think AEW can really use someone like her too, a woman personality, not just an in-ring person, but someone with some freaking who can talk. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where she goes, but she probably has to do the 3-month gimmick and then can move on.
90 days until AEW or Impact or MLW, which is returning this Wednesday to YouTube with a big double main event. If we have time, we'll maybe get a quick moment to talk about it with Brian Pillman Jr. versus Miles Reed and Harry Smith versus or Davey Boy Smith versus Fatu in their 2 title matches, which hopefully people will get a chance to check out on YouTube this week. But so Jay, some of the other major stories of the week, we had Full Gear. We both had a chance to watch it. First takeaways, I thought it was a really solid show. I thought there was a couple hits and misses. Going back and rewatching some of it later on, some initial things I didn't love. After thinking about it, I actually thought were really better timed. I know you didn't, from us initially talking about it, you didn't love the finish of the Bucks and FTR.
No.
Like I said, after
They did 18 moves to each other. I got the story. They did 18 crazy moves to each other, and he beats him with a super kick. And I know it's because it's the injured leg. I get the whole story behind it, but it didn't make any sense because they did 18 billion moves to each other, and he beat him with a super kick. Also, the idea that he was taking so long to like do a move, it was a great match with a very poor finish, in my opinion.
So like I said, when I first saw it, I thought the same thing, but after thinking about it, I thought that the actual finish was actually pretty smart with the idea that the idea that the Revival or FTR's whole entire gimmick is the fact they don't do any high flying moves. They're all fists and like basic chain wrestling. And they were so frustrated trying to beat this team that they try to go and beat them at their own game. And what caused them to lose was them doing the high flying stuff, and they got so overconfident and everything, and that's how they lost.
Yeah, but he took so long to do it. I think that was my problem. He sat there and he looked around, and you could tell they were setting it up. It just took so long to do that. It didn't. To me, it didn't. The match didn't build to a crescendo where it was ready for that, in my opinion.
I can see that, and I did think it was like I know it's a weird thing to say. I really did think that was like a love letter tag team wrestling with, going back to all of these other classic tag team wrestling finishing moves. You could say it's gimmicky to do that, but I mean, I really thought that, do I think it reached the level of the Retribution tag team match, which I think is the best tag team match I've seen in years, or the Revival versus DIY match? And I thought it was a great thing when they actually said, which I never thought I would hear, but AEW is its own separate entity, but they actually even mentioned that they used DIY's finisher in the match. I thought that was pretty cool by Excalibur. But I thought it was a really good match. It's most likely maybe the third or fourth best, tag team match I've seen in the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely.
But with all the hype, I think it delivered. Like I said, you may have not loved the timing of the ending, but I think it was a really good match. I thought the pay-per-view overall, I think, delivered. And I think the follow-up show on Wednesday, I think was very good, but I don't think it solidly hit the mark where it was, oh my God, if I watched the pay-per-view and then I watched Dynamite the following Wednesday, I'm like, I'm hooked and I want to go and start watching Dynamite. And I think that year two, and I think we've spoken about the last couple of weeks, year two of Dynamite hasn't been like the launching off point where I'm expecting the mistakes they've made in year one are being corrected. You know what I'm saying?
No, I think. By the way, I think Matt Jackson should have beat him with like the Kamagoe. Should have beat him with the Ibushi's knee. And I think using that as his would have made sense because it's a freaking knee to the face. But whatever. I think AEW is doing a lot of the same stuff that they keep doing. I think they are developing a formula of doing way too much. And I think that's their formula. They think people are going to watch it. Tony Khan talked about like the changing of the guard in wrestling. I don't know what he was talking about.
That was a mistake to do that. And did you I'm sorry to interrupt you because I want to actually get to this point, which I think a lot of people have been talking about online. Did you read that before you saw the show?
No.
Or you heard about that after?
No. I heard about that after.
Because I think a lot of people have been causing a lot of uproar for people who saw that beforehand. I think they were expecting so much more because they were expecting like Sting showing up or Goldberg or Lesnar, huge monumental event that was going to change the landscape, where it was the introduction of Shaq's coming in and the return of Pac. And I think if you had just saw the show and you didn't expect this, like super expecting something huge to happen, you were like, all right, this is a good show.
Yeah.
A typical, AEW experience. But if you had saw that tweet, like I said, you're expecting like this huge monumental NWO type.
Well, I mean, they, again.
And the last time you said that, they brought in the FTR, title, not the FTW title, and it was like, this is your big thing changing the industry. They've done a little bit of that with the hyping stuff up. The FTW title, I remember that they hyped that up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do a little bit with the. I think. I don't know that AEW. They can get there. I think they need
Gosh, Corey, I don't know. They do this thing where they're like kind of overbooking stuff, and like for instance, AW Dark, right? Put the women in that division. Don't even have Sheeta, Nyla Rose, Britt Baker, have like 6 women on the main roster. Do it like NXT, make AEW Dark like NXT, like more of a developmental. And I know that they're somewhat doing that, but I think they need to work on kind of developing storylines, within some of the stuff that's happening on Dark. And I know that they are somewhat doing that, but I don't think they're doing it to the level they should. I don't know, Corey. The show is just way overbooked, and it's just always a lot going on the show. The show doesn't ever really slow down its pace, which you can say is what fans want in 2020, and that might be true. But a match like Reigns and Jey Uso had, the Hell in a Cell match, which you could say was a great match, wasn't a great match. The story they told in that match was outrageous. Mm-hmm. And, I have a lot of problems with WWE. A lot of problems. But the Reigns Uso storyline, I don't know, it's probably been the best storyline of the year. Top
half of them, sure.
Definitely top half. And AEW, I don't think would ever do a match like that. I don't think they'd ever do a match that was a real slow match that told a story like that. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know. I don't know. I don't want this to be a referendum on AEW. I just wish they changed a few things up on their show. Let's talk about this Shaq tease, and again, let's bring someone else in new after Mike Tyson, and now he's not here, so let's bring Shaq in. Let's talk about this appearance by this woman, Jade Cargill or whatever.
Sure. You want to start on this, or do you want me to?
I'll let you go. The train's coming anyway.
The train is coming to the station, and
I need a sip of beer.
There you go. I'll take this from 2 points of view. One, I thought the promo from Jade was terrible. It was a terrible promo, but you know what? At the same point, this is the first time on live TV.
Why is she on live TV, Corey? Put her on Dark. Why is she out there?
I think she may actually be dating Shaquille O'Neal in real life, but that's a possibility. But at the same point, though, looking at her, she came across as a star. She did.
Did she?
I thought
she could. Her promo was terrible. How'd she cut? She looks like $1 million.
Yes,
her promo was terrible. Agreed. Do a video package with her if you want to highlight her. Why is she out there cutting a promo?
I don't disagree with you. But on the other end of that, though, I thought this was by far the best promo Brandy Rhodes has ever done. I thought, and which is, you could say also the other end, it's a terrible thing because your babyface made your heel look like you never want to see them again because you put her in a spot where she looked like trash as a result. But that promo by Brandy Rhodes was why, as much as you want to say you want to put every woman in the ring and you want women to get a shot to be in the ring and they just shouldn't be valets and everything else, but that promo by Brandy Rhodes, I thought was a great promo. As bad as a wrestler she's a great. She's a great.
She's not always a great.
But you don't think that was a great promo though?
It was fine. She was protecting her husband. It was good. Like it was fine.
I thought it was really good.
What are we going to see? A match between this woman who's never wrestled before and Brandy Rhodes, who's wrestled for years and isn't very good? I don't care.
But but it also comes down to the idea of it's cross. You know what this is though? It's cross promotion of TNT products, and
I get all that. I get all that. It's fine to bring Shaq in. Whatever. I think it's kind of silly. Whatever. Dennis Rodman, Karl Malone thing in WCW. That's what it makes me think of. But you know what? That's fine. Bring Shaq in. I don't care about that. Could they have done a backstage vignette with the woman to spotlight her? Kind of like and I hate doing the WWE thing because we know how we feel about WWE, but kind of like how they're pumping up Bianca Belair as like this super athlete, and all this stuff. Highlight this woman like that. Do vignettes with her, showing how great and an athlete she is. Get us pumped up. Instead, she comes out there, cuts a terrible promo. I did like her smacking Brandon in the butt. That was funny. But she comes out there, cuts a horrible promo. She got a little better at the end. But the segment was way, way too long.
3 minutes felt like an hour and 3 minutes.
It was, it was, and what's Cody now supposed to be scared of Shaq? I don't. You know, whatever. They got to do stuff. They want to get more ratings. Shaq will bring them more ratings. That's not a problem. The introduction of it didn't make any sense to me.
And let's be honest here. And we're going to say this many times, especially I will. And I don't think it's a bad thing, but when you put one of your 4 or 5 biggest stars in a hole now it's been a year where he puts a stipulation on himself where you can never go for the world title, many times you're going to have to go and put obstacles in Cody Rhodes or Cody's direction where the reasons why he's not, after he loses the title or gets away from a big feud, he's not going for the world title. You got to put other things in his direction. I mean, I thought the way they started where he's like, all right, I respect Darby Allin. He's the new face of TNT. And now I want to go and finish something that from last year I never got a chance to settle with MJF. And because MJF is dealing with a new thing, he gets interrupted, just like right afterwards when you debuted Jake the Snake Roberts and the Murder Hawk. You know.
Yeah, no, I get the whole idea.
The bad obstacle.
I'm just saying the promo was terrible. They could have done a backstage thing. It could have just been way better than having this super green woman come out who's never cut a promo in a wrestling ring ever on live national TV and just struggle through the promo. It just wasn't a good look. You want people to look. The first impression's a big deal. It's a big deal, and so she'll be wrestling Serena Deeb next week in a long, probably not great match. So who knows?
All right, let's talk about 2 other things from AEW before we move on. I think they're both interesting things. One, we're not waiting till Revolution, so we're not waiting till February to have the big Moxley versus Kenny Omega match. That match will take place basically, I think, in 2 or 3 weeks on the December 2nd episode of Dynamite, which
Omega's best promo since the last Moxley feud.
Absolutely. And I love the idea that Moxley basically said, their first match, which was the lights out match, so it didn't, and I'll give them credit. I never thought about it this way, where it was long-term storytelling, where they basically booked this a year out, where that match won't go against either one's record. So you had Kenny Omega said, if you look at the record books, we've never actually faced each other. So, I mean, I like that little thing, but the idea of and this is just me, if Moxley is going to be wrestling Kenta at Wrestle Kingdom on January 4th, he's got to quarantine for 2 weeks. So you have him win the title on the 2nd. You have Moxley off TV for 3 weeks. He can go to Japan, quarantine, and then he can be at Wrestle Kingdom. Am I crazy with that idea?
So he can't he has to go to Japan and quarantine for 2 weeks.
If you're coming from the U.S., you have to quarantine for 2 weeks beforehand, and you have Kenta who's got the shot for the U.S. title, and if you're gonna have
still the U.S. champion. I totally forgot he was the U.S. champion. Kenta's definitely gonna win it.
I would think, and I mean I don't think and if you're doing that, I don't think you want to have your AEW World Champion lose on their biggest show there. I mean it's So, I mean, do you think I have validity there? And then you do the rematch at Retribution?
At Revolution?
Yeah.
I mean, so you make some very interesting points. Very, very, yeah, it's a rarity for you, but you did a good job there. No, you make good points. One, I worry about Omega on the mic. That promo he did Wednesday was one of the best promo he's done since that sit-down video, that sit-down interview he did before the Moxley, the first match, where he was really good. And he talked about, like, I'm supposed to, everyone's supposed to say, everyone's asking, where's the cleaner? He even mentioned New Japan. And New Japan's the funny kind of –
He called himself the cleaner.
Yeah. I mean, he called himself the cleaner. He talked about New Japan. And I'm glad they're talking about New Japan. And maybe that, maybe that's a little sliver of hope that they can
Harold
open.
May's out as the president of that company, which they
Yeah.
said big,
So
stumbling block. So
maybe there's a sliver of hope. So so yeah, right. So he mentions that that's where he that he is the best bout machine. Where is that Omega? He's like, it's always been here. And he finally sounded like what he should sound like, not just some dopey guy who we don't know what he is. He is the best wrestler in the world. He should tell people that every promo he's in. Mm-hmm. He should have a big ego about that. It doesn't have to be a big deal. He doesn't have to cut promos every time about it. But that's where he should line up. I think we talked about this on the show a while ago about Omega not really having a character. He was just kind of a guy who's a really good wrestler. Mm-hmm. He now is developing a character, and it's taken a hell of a long time. But now he's kind of starting to get there. So, yeah, I mean, it was a great promo. To your point, I mean, Omega's going to win the title. I mean, right? Like, whether he's the right guy to win, I mean, you could say yes or no.
I think he is.
I also loved Moxley's promo. I mean, he is the ultimate babyface, talking about this titles for, people who make fun of wrestling. I mean, he's the modern day babyface, right? Like,
he's awesome.
He's just. I mean, he was great in WWE, but with this freedom he has with AEW, I mean, he is just on another. He's on another level. He's on another level of anyone in AEW, anyone in the WWE, anyone in pro wrestling. Other than promo-wise, I mean, I love Tommaso Ciampa too, but he's just on another level promo-wise, and he's great. Yeah, I think Omega wins the title, and that's a good point about the quarantining thing, and going to Japan and quarantining for a couple of weeks. That makes a lot of sense. So, we'll kind of see what happens, but I mean, he's going to win the title.
I think it could be a right decision. So, and the other thing I want to talk about AEW quickly was last week we spoke about, I think, for a couple of moments at the end, that we had the return video of Pac, and then this week at the end of the show, after you had the really good rematch between Penta and Phoenix, you had the return of Pac saying, I'm back, the bastard is back. Do you think that they should have not done the video and it would have helped the idea of more of a surprise of Pac returning? And what do you think of Pac's return? Do you like the idea of him versus Eddie Kingston stable? I know you're not the biggest Eddie Kingston guy in the ring.
No, I mean, so Pac is now a babyface? Who's the heel in the feud? So Eddie King, and I guess Phoenix, they definitely did a thing where, and by the way, if anyone saw the wrestler documentary that they did
on Vice,
on Vice, I mean, Phoenix is a stone cold babyface, right? Yeah. And I don't know, maybe his English isn't that great, but I mean, he's like the sweetest guy, and so I think they can really play on that, and they could maybe make him a babyface. Pac as a babyface, I don't know, man. He just looks mean. Like, he looks like an asshole. I don't know, but but he's fantastic. So, if they do something where, Phoenix joins Pac and, they don't make it a babyface heel thing, I just, usually that's what you do in wrestling. So I'm not sure exactly how they're going to do that. Again, the Eddie Kingston thing, I think there's whatever. He's great on the mic, and so it'll be fun. In the ring, it'll be, I guess, good enough to pass. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm just glad Pac's there. AEW needs a guy like him. They need a guy who's a real talker, who is just excellent in the ring, excellent on the mic. They need someone like him. They've needed someone like him since he's been gone. So I'm glad he's back, and we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I said overall a good show, good follow-up. Not great, but helped further a couple of storylines along, and we'll see.
I did enjoy that Cage Seidel match. I was like, it's going to be a squash match. I'm like, I'll watch it. I mean, it was a really, again, we knew who was going to win and whatever, but it was a really, really fun match. I like the setting up the Darby Allin against Cage or Starks, Team Taz, and with Will Hobbs there.
I think Will Hobbs is still turning heel, though. I think that's still where the direction that it feels like Hobbs is, even though I know you like to have some, African-American baby faces, not everyone has to be a heel. And, more than, Scorpio Sky being the only, African-American baby face in that company. Not the fact there's only two of them in the whole company that we could think of it off the top of our heads, but Will Hobbs, it just feels like it's almost just a little bit too much where it feels like Will Hobbs is going to turn on Darby and he's going to be a member of Team Taz. That's how I feel, maybe I'm wrong.
You're probably right, but man, it'd be nice for him to stay a babyface because he seems like a good guy. He's got a good story. It's like that's a guy that you want to keep, and that's where sometimes AEW gets cute with this overbooking.
Right.
That's a guy he's a good guy. He seems like a nice guy. He's got a great story. He's still a developing guy. He's not there yet, so they're doing a nice job of highlighting him, of not putting him in matches every week, but making sure he's on TV. They've done a good job with him. Keep him as a babyface. Have a Will Hobbs, Darby Allin TNT title match at some point. And maybe he doesn't win. That's fine. But is he going to be better as a babyface moving forward or a heel? I mean, they have a lot of heels. So, he's a big, badass babyface. Him and Cage. I mean, they've wrestled already, but that's a natural feud that they could keep going. So for a weird title that makes no sense why they have him having a title. But I digress. Yeah, I want them to keep Will Hobbs as a babyface, but we'll see what they do.
Yeah. So next week we have a couple of matches announced, and the big thing leading up to next week will be the Inner Circle's visit to Vegas, going up against Rhea Ripley versus Io Shirai for the women's NXT Championship, which both of us will be looking forward to. But before we get to that, what was your thoughts on Leon Ruff becoming a North American champion and basically making a joke of that title, at least for a week?
Yeah. So who said it? Jason Powell maybe said it. He's like their new cheeseburger. He's like the cheeseburger of NXT. I mean, I like Leon Ruff, and I think he's actually pretty good in the ring. I mean, he was tag team champions in Evolve. Like, I think he's a legit guy, but he's small and they throw him around or whatever. Mm-hmm. I thought it was stupid. Just have him win. Have him do a non-title match and then, whatever. And then have him win a non-title. Why have him win the title? It's stupid. I thought it was something like the WWE would do. I thought it was dumb. I hated it. I absolutely hated it.
The only way, I'm sorry to interrupt you, only way this works, and I'm not even saying that the former Punishment Martinez hasn't been an okay babyface. The only way I think
Damian Priest has been a great babyface, actually, in my opinion, because he's been himself. I like when babyfaces are still themselves as baby. He still is like hitting on women. He's still like being him, but he's not being a dick to everybody else. He's not like, hey fans, I love you guys. He is being him while just being like a better version of himself. So I like when they do that with babyfaces. That's why I've enjoyed him very much being a babyface. But
no, he just hasn't really maybe worked that much for me. But if this turns out that you have him turned heel by basically killing Leon Ruff in like 3 seconds and winning back the title, and that's like his heel turn where he basically kills this underdog babyface, I could see that maybe working.
I don't want that. What would you do with Gargano? Gargano's a heel, and then he's a heel.
That's true. But I mean, just the Leon Ruff thing just feels like, I don't know, you have that and the stuff with Cameron Grimes. It feels like you said, it kind of too much WWE Monday Night Raw. Like this week felt like there was weight, and I'm okay with comedy because, I like some of the stuff they do with AEW, with the comedic stuff, especially being the elite. But NXT, I'm not saying NXT is the most serious brand every week by any stretch, but it just felt like this week there was too much comedy, and it kind of lost me a little bit. I still thought there was stuff on the show that was really good, and it didn't lose. And it still, was by far, better than anything we saw on Raw this week. And I thought AEW was a stronger overall show, but I still think NXT was good. But I just felt, maybe you'll disagree with me, but I just felt there was just too much comedy. And then the stuff with, Rhea Gonzalez with this Boa stuff, with some,
Yeah,
Asian
this
guy,
was
Oriental guy coming
definitely
down,
and
and it was just
this
like,
was definitely
what's
in.
going on in this show?
Yeah, it wasn't a great show. It was, and I'll be the first to admit, I'm an NXT mark. It wasn't a great show. The tag title match was okay, but we kind of knew it. We knew it was going to happen, so it's kind of hard with those matches. I mean, the match of I really enjoyed the Jake Atlas match. I know that there were some blown spots, but I did enjoy that match. Yeah, I think they're getting.
Too cute
Listen,
to school.
they're getting too cute. But again, these are wrestling companies who are trying to get ratings. They're trying to do stuff. But man, they haven't even had Leon Ruff on the show lately to lose. You know, when he was losing every week to Killer Cross, it was like, okay. But so I think they've got to figure that out. I don't know. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I hated it. If it was a Cameron Grimes like guy, one of those guys, then it's like, okay, that's fine. Like, I get that. You have one of those kind of mid-level, lower mid-level guys win the title, a Jake Atlas, let's say. Like, that's, okay, fine. But basically a prelim guy, a ham and egger, come on.
And this was not, 1, 2, 3 Kid beating Razor Ramon, for the back in, on Monday Night Raw. At least 1, 2, 3 Kid was on the show, week after week, and he was like slowly becoming like a fan favorite type of thing. Where you had the big idea of the underdog winning a match you never thought he was going to win, but that wasn't what this was.
No, not at all.
It was just like, all right, this is some big joke thing.
It was a joke. Exactly, Corey. I think when 1, 2, 3 Kid beat Razor Ramon, it was an upset. And they're like, oh my God, what an upset. It wasn't like, oh, this is a joke. Even when they put the title around his waist and the belt fell, it's like, come on.
And he goes, take the keys to my car and leave because he's basically going to come back here and beat the hell out of you. I mean, okay, so your new champion's, basically telling you, he's basically a wimp and he's got to run away because he can't stand up to the champion. I mean, it just felt very goofy. Yeah. And NXT is not supposed to be goofy,
I don't mind the Cameron Grimes stuff. You know me, I'm not a big fan of his. He does nothing for me. But I think he's been kind of funny in this feud with Sam Shaw. Sure. So I don't mind that. The Chinese thing with Xia Li and Boa. It seems pretty goofy to me because Boa got the shit beaten out of him, but maybe they're going somewhere with it. I mean, it's going to definitely be some type of faction with Xia Li and Boa, and they probably have to bring someone legitimate in because Boa just got beat up. I don't want to say beat up by a woman, meaning that's, whatever, because it's Raquel Gonzalez. But, I mean, he really got his ass handed to him.
My problem with that is, though, you had 3 of those things in one show. If you had 1 week that one thing happened, another week you had one, but 3 of those events in the same show. Yeah, it felt very much like a third hour of Monday Night Raw. And when we're watching NXT, that's kind of our Wednesday night escape from all of the BS that we usually see on Raw. That makes us go, oh, please make it Wednesday where we see actual stuff that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. It was almost like Vince booked the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it felt very much like a Vince. The titles don't mean anything. Let's throw some goofy shit in there. It felt like and so they had a swing and a miss that episode. But Halloween Havoc was awesome. So it's like, maybe next week will be better. Next week should be better. That was the best thing on that. That was the best thing on NXT. That video package with Rhea Ripley and Io Shirai. I mean, so again, let's just talk about that. I know we're kind of going long in the show. Is this a loser leaves NXT match?
It's interesting. I mean, you would almost think Rhea Ripley, after the year she's had since WrestleMania, you have to put the title back on her. And
you do?
Can she get another loss? I mean, unless she loses this by some sort of interference, and then she wins the title at the next takeover. I mean, at some point, I would think she's got to win the title back, right? I mean, I mean, everything you hear
She
from
doesn't. She doesn't have to win the title back.
not everything you hear from Triple H is, the next in 5 years, the big star of the WWE is going to be Rhea Ripley. Every interview he does, and he basically puts over Rhea Ripley as the next big star of the WWE, which their next big star will be their first big star. But sorry, couldn't help myself there. But I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be a really good match. I think if they're going to win, the ratings for that night, that mostly will be the reason why. Because the one thing that WWE as overall does very well is the women's matches, and I wanted to get this in a minute, and we may not have a chance to actually talk about it, but this week on SmackDown, they had their highest ratings pre-pandemic, and it was because of the Sasha Banks Bayley match, the first basically half hour, and basically after that, the ratings basically went to hell in a handbasket.
That was a really good match. It was a really good match.
Women's wrestling in WWE, fans care about that.
Stars. Yeah. Well, the stars. Like, they don't care about Lana against Dana Brooke.
Right.
They've got to be the stars. Yeah, you're right. I think it'll be. Go ahead.
And these are well-developed characters. Rhea Ripley, and think about it. Rhea Ripley has been built as a star, even though she lost to Charlotte, and she was the one that was pinned in the three-way match when Io won the title. Since then, she's beat Mercedes Martinez. She's the only person who's basically beat Reina Gonzalez. Yeah, she put out. Put over Dakota Kai.
Yeah,
but she is basically besides Io, she is the most well-protected woman in that company.
Yeah, no, I mean, she's absolutely a star. I mean, 100%. Just for her to be in that match against Charlotte in WrestleMania, right? That already puts you there. Like, she's already there, right? So we'll see. I will be very curious with the ratings. Like, does a women's match do in NXT do that well? Do they win or get close to AEW? I mean, it should. You should watch it over anything AEW is going to put out there. But there's still that kind of thing with women's wrestling or whatever. So I'll be very curious to see how they do. They've actually promoted this. They've built it up, unlike other times with NXT. So they should spike a rating, you would think. I think Io wins, and I think Rhea Ripley's on one of these shows wrestling Dana Brooke. So I mean, or maybe they do some goofy finish, but I think in a match like this you can't. I really hope they don't. I really hope they don't do some goofy finish. Make this a real finish that's supposed to be, whatever. Don't give me some cute finish. So maybe they do, maybe they don't. The other thing, two AEW things real quick.
Sure.
One, it looks like Full Gear did around 100,000, like a little lower than some of their other pay-per-views, where the other pay-per-views were like around 105, 110. That's according to Dave Meltzer. And I enjoyed the Inner Circle thing, the MJF stuff. I'm enjoying it because MJF's great. Could we have had Sammy Guevara be on the shelf for a couple of weeks? He got a concerto on concrete and then got put in a garbage can.
What's up with that?
Could we have put him in, held him out for, he's not going to make Vegas because we don't know where he is. I mean, could they have, sold that a little better?
I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, it is, I'm sure in their minds it would be funnier, the idea that you have Ortiz and Sammy, the two people who don't want him in the group, in there, and the whole aspect of the two disgruntled people being in Vegas. I still think it's going to be interesting if they actually go into Vegas to film this, or with restrictions, with everything basically shutting down and, not much going on, how much, what they're actually going to be able to do. Or
if they probably would have. I mean, Vegas is, I watch a show every week or every day on it's a network called VSiN, and they're a sports betting network, and they do their show from the Circa Casino that just opened up a couple weeks ago, and they have people there all the time.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. Vegas is open. It's open. So yeah, they could do and obviously there's no quarantine thing with Florida, and Florida, they don't care. And Vegas,
Good old
right?
Ron DeSantis. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe they do. I don't know. Do you think it would? I mean, they could do stuff at like bars, and they could go to casinos in Florida. Like they don't have to go to. They don't have to go to Vegas to do it. They could just do. There's casinos in Florida where they could just basically
Say they were
make
in
it
Vegas.
up. Yeah. I think that's probably what they'll do.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how that goes. I mean, I expect it to be a very funny segment. I mean,
I just hope it's not too long.
I could see them doing like, mini segments throughout the show, a couple of like 40-second or 2-minute segments, like 3 or 4 of them throughout the show. And could be like a whole like storyline thing throughout the show. I mean,
Yeah,
I can see
that's
that
fair.
being good, And I'm really interested. One of the things that I think that they made a mistake with AEW, because you just brought stuff just popped in my head. I saw them on AEW Dark. I think they have a lot of potential in a couple of years being really good. But out of nowhere, I'm hearing that the best tag team in the world of the Young Bucks is facing these 2 19-year-old kids in Top Flight. They looked really good, but would have it killed you to either put in a highlight package of their match from Dark or have them be in a match, even if it was like a 4-minute match. I know nothing on AEW is ever 4 minutes because everything's got to be 16 minutes, But would it kill them to have a match on, AEW Dynamite last night, just so the people who do not watch Dark, who have no idea who Top Flight is?
Corey, you don't even need a video pack. You don't even need a match. Do a video package of them talking about where they came from, and then do like, have them do these high flying moves, from AEW Dark, and it would take 3 minutes. You can cut down some of this other goofy shit they did. Jade, whatever, she talked for 20 minutes. Cut some of this stuff down, right? The cage match, Seidel match was great, but you could make that a little shorter, or they could have made that squash match. And you highlight these. I don't know who the hell the Top Flight is. I have no idea who they are. Why do I want to watch it?
I mean, everything that they say usually comes up, and they're usually good matches. But like I said, it's a nitpick, and I'm sure that match is going to be really good. But I would have liked, if I did not watch Dark, I have no idea who these 2 guys are, except for a one line of, of one of the Jacksons saying, they remind us of ourselves. And that's supposed to tell me I'm really interested in seeing them. But Jay, we'll talk about 1 or 2 little things afterwards. But Jay, this is a good point where you let people know how they can follow us on social media.
Yeah, there's all these trains going by my house, and like there's nobody on them. Guys, turn the trains off. There's no one on these fucking trains.
And there we go. We got our
okay, we're on Twitter at WorkShootPod. Corey's at Paladin808. I'm at fstopblue79 on Twitter as well. I'm never really do anything on there, so really at WorkShootPod is where we're on.
Instagram.
We are on Instagram. WorkShootPod.
Correct.
Yeah, you might have to do that one. Okay. And of course, we're on Facebook, Work Shoot Wrestling Podcast. If you type in Work Shoot Wrestling Podcast, you'll find us. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, wherever you get your podcast. Leave us 5 stars, and we'll read it on the air.
And as always, follow our sister podcast. Jay, would you like to tell them what that is?
You don't know Jackie!
Get more animated every week as he does it. We might actually have to have him back on the show to actually give some opinions. Talking about that's our comedy podcast with the great Jackie Endy, Jackie Rachel, and a little bit more recently we've had on Jackie Brandon has come on a little bit more, getting out of his shell. But be free to go and subscribe, rate, and review everywhere you listen to podcasts. Jay. Actually, just popped in my head because we spoke about her earlier in the show, and we spoke about him being the best bout machine. What would you think in 90 days, guy who doesn't talk very well, combining Zelina Vega or Thea Trinidad with Kenny Omega as a mouthpiece? You think that would be I just popped in my head, but you think that could be a pretty good fit if you have him as a tweener or as a heel, Zelina Vega being the mouthpiece for Kenny Omega?
I think the issue with that is he would have been champion for 3 months already. And he's like, well, why do I need her now? But yeah, no, I think it's not a bad, I think she'd be great with like, I don't know if Will Hobbs can talk. So maybe have her be a guy, someone, someone who's a developing talent. They've done this thing where they have these old managers, these older, legends who are managers. The Vicky Guerrero thing was a mess, and I think they realized that. That's why that's over at Nyla Rose. I think Tully's been great, and I think Arn's been great. But maybe you have Zelina work with one of these. The problem is they have so few. The problem is they have so few women's wrestlers. They pretty much have to come in there. She pretty much has to go in there and wrestle, probably. So I think that's where like you could say that's an. But I guess she could do both, right? Why couldn't she wrestle and then also be a manager? So maybe she could do both. So I don't know. I'm not sure where they go with her, but it would be cool. It would be really cool to see her there. I think AEW needs someone like her. I think they need to get some of these other talents over. And so, yeah, we'll see what happens. But with Omega, it would be interesting. But I still think Omega, he seems like he can talk. When he cuts a promo, he can cut a promo. He needs to figure out who he is. And I think we're starting to finally see that.
So a couple of more quick little hits before we get out of here. So we both had a chance to watch it. Unfortunately, we never really had a chance to talk about SmackDown. Bayley versus Sasha. I honestly thought this was going to be one of the co-main events for WrestleMania. It looks like that feud, at least for the moment, is over. What do you think it's going on right now, but at least as either a short-term or as a follow-up feud? Looks like now we're going to get Sasha versus Carmella. Do you think that's a good follow-up either for the short term? What do you think of that as a next feud for Sasha right now?
It's fine. Carmella's gotten a lot better in the ring. She can talk. She looks weird. I don't know, her hair and her makeup. I think she looks weird with this new look that she's got going on. But
Eva Marie 2.0?
Yeah, it's not like befitting of her. Like her swag is like wearing J's and stuff. I don't totally get it. But yeah, I think it'll be fine. I have something for you, Corey. It sounds like, and listen, I'm very upset that this feud is ending, but it sounds like the Seth Rollins Rey Mysterio feud might be ending. It looks like Rollins will be taking some time off. Who knows if this is true or not? But
really?
It seems like Becky Lynch is due, I think, in a little bit. So I guess he's going to spend some time with her. Obviously, she's having a child, so I think that's going to happen. By the way, Becky Lynch will be back by WrestleMania. She has this kid this month. But anyway, whatever. Maybe not by WrestleMania. That's being funny. Yeah, so this feud may be over. Mercifully,
yeah. Well, we still got Buddy and Ray and Dominic and everybody else, but we'll see where that goes. Another one quickly before we get out of here. Like I said at the very top, MLW will be returning next week on the 18th. They have a big double main event.
There's not enough wrestling out there. We need more of it.
More and more. Reed versus Pillman Jr. and Fatu versus Davey Boy Smith Jr. You were a much bigger watcher of MLW when it was around. It's returning on YouTube this Wednesday, and then back on BN Sports on Saturday night. Also, I believe it's on a couple of other places. If you go to MLW's Twitter, you'll be able to find everywhere else it is. But their big return on the 18th of this month of November. I guess, first of all, what's your interest level of the return of the show? And do you think this double main event is something that will get people into it? Or is it kind of been gone so long where it's kind of like forgotten about?
I don't know. I think it depends on their promotion. I didn't know it was coming back Wednesday. I knew they were coming back, and Court Bauer was good with promotion. There's just so much stuff. The Masters, if anyone cares about that, I do, because I may have a financial interest.
You can watch that on CBS all weekend.
Yeah. Oh, okay. There you go. So watch on ESPN. So all this stuff, there's just so much stuff going on. There's Impact, there's Turning Points tomorrow. So it kind of gets a little bit. And the other issue with MLW is, and we'll get to the actual card in a second, which is fantastic, but it's hard when you build up a habit of watching a show at a certain time. Corey, I swear to God, the only reason why I watch Raw is because I've been watching it. It's a horrible show. It's fucking horrible. But you're in the rhythm of watching the show on a Monday. So sometimes I usually watch it in like 40 minutes after Monday Night Football. So, but I'm used to watching it and I'm used to doing that, right? It's just a habit that you just have. And MLW kind of had that. I think they were on Saturday nights, and I know they were on YouTube as well. Mm-hmm. And it's hard now because you've had that habit of not watching them for so long. It's like, can I go back to it? That being said, the card is great. Myron Reed is a future. I mean, he's a star. He's going to be a star. He can talk. He is spectacular in the ring. He's a little skinny, but I think he's only like 21 years old. MLW's done a good job. You talk about acquiring like young talent that's developing. So Myron Reed, I think, is going to be a star. He's going to beat Pillman because Pillman's talking about leaving, obviously. Fatu, another guy who's a star against.
Jacob Fatu, maybe the most underrated champion in all of wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, he's just ridiculous. And he's one of those guys, when he comes out, he looks like a badass. Mm-hmm. It's not like, oh, I don't know. He looks like a wrestler. He looks like he could break you in real life, in a back alley, or whatever, right? And he's a crazy athlete, and he's a guy who gets over without having to talk a lot. They did a great job with giving him a mouthpiece, and Joseph Samael. But yeah, I mean, that's a match they were building a lot before the pandemic. He's a guy, he won their Opera Cup or whatever they called it. I didn't even really know what that tournament was about, but I watched the matches. It was fine. So he won the Opera Cup, and, he's been a number one contender for a while. So I don't think he'll win, but I think they might do some goofy finish to keep the feud going. I could see that. But yeah, MLW is, for the most part, a really good, fun hour of TV. I think it's a really quality wrestling show. They do some goofy shit. I don't think they highlight some guys as much as well as they should, but they have a lot of good young talent. And I'm definitely gonna watch at some point. I don't know exactly when, but I will definitely watch at some point.
And I guess the last thing on that quickly is that's a major difference between NWA right now and MLW. NWA on Wednesday at 7:00, you can watch it either on Fubo TV or YouTube, or on Saturday on BN Sports. To watch the return of the NWA, which Jay was a huge fan of. Every week he would try to talk about a little bit on the show. Only way you're watching that is if you're paying for that on pay-per-view right now. And from what I've heard, the shows have been okay. They basically switched every title besides Nick Aldis in the last couple of weeks, because, pretty much everyone there is either under contract or slightly not under contract, with Ziggy Dice and James Storm, and Thunder Rose is under contract, but she's working other places and everything else. It's hard to keep an audience where people were used to not paying for the product and watching it every week on YouTube, and now it's not on there. And now MLW is coming back, and anyone who had MLW as a favorite on their YouTube channels, that's going to just pop up as as a notification on Wednesday at Wednesday at 7:00. Where
that's a good point.
AEW Dark on Tuesday or whatever else, you're going to see that on Wednesday, and you'll be like, oh wow, that's back. I'm going to give that a chance.
You're right, Corey. That's an excellent point. Are more people going to watch? Are more? Yeah, I know. Two more than usual. Are more people going to watch? Watch MLW or NWA this week? I don't think it's even going to be close. It's hard to ask people to pay for these shows.
Yeah,
it's really, really hard. So AEW's getting like 100,000 people, 10,000 people to order their pay-per-views, and they have, let's say, 750,000 people watching them.
Right.
So, right. And yeah, they have stars. They build these shows up over time. It's like, I'm going to pay every week to watch what I just was getting for free 6 months ago. It's a hard deal, man. It's really, really hard. And so as much as I support that, if it was like $5 a month, I would do it. Even if it were 10, what is it, 20 or 30?
I forgot what the amount is. We'll take a look at it. But
maybe if it was 10, I would think about it. Mm-hmm. But it's just You know, and I have the money to spend. I mean, I bet $25 that Tony Finau is going to win the Masters, for God's sakes. But it's not worth it to me. It's
And I'll
not,
be honest, like I said,
the
if our
value's not there.
if our friends at the NWA fam, if NWA website podcast weren't still doing their show, I would have basically no idea what's going on with that. Besides, every once in a while seeing an update on F4W about a title change. But Jay, last thing before we get out of here, right away, the Rascals this Tuesday will be their final match. They've been evicted from the Treehouse. Rumors that they will be joining WWE. What's your thoughts? Do you think? Well, first of all, I guess quickly because you watch a lot more than I have as of late. Their run from what you've seen in I'm sorry,
Impact. Yeah, they've been losing a ton of matches, and I was like, because they were, Trey Miguel was in the main event at Slammiversary in the 5-way, 10-way, whatever match.
Yeah.
And then he's been losing matches lately, and Dez and Wentz have been losing matches too, so it makes sense. So about those guys, if you guys don't know, I really like them. One, it's kind of cool because one guy's Hispanic or Latinx, one guy's African American, and one guy's white. So they kind of have a cool vibe about them, but they don't ever play to that. It's just That's just what they are. They're small. They are all super talented in the ring, and very, very fun to watch. They're goofy. They have a good gimmick. Obviously, their gimmick is that they smoke weed, and that's their gimmick. They're big potheads or whatever. But it's a really fun, good gimmick. I think they're super, super talented. I think now if they went to the WWE, meaning Raw or SmackDown, it would be probably a disaster. I think they would be fire in NXT. Those three guys. You could, do the Freebirds rules with them, which probably they would do. I don't know if they'd have one guy stand out as a singles guy. They probably would do some type of Freebird rules with them.
I think Trey Miguel would be that guy, but
yeah, maybe. But yeah, they're super talented. I'm really happy for them. I think they're three of the best guys in Impact. I think Impact's will honestly be taking a huge loss. With those guys leaving. They had a couple other tag teams this week that they highlighted, and I'm like, yeah, these guys are they're not great. So I think that's the route that they're going. So it's unfortunate, but you know what? Impact, you can say this for Impact. They're a classy company, man, because they're going to do a tag team match with Rich Swann and a member of the Rascals against two other members of the Rascals. And I think they might, I don't know if that's going to be the main event, but they're going to do that.
Yeah, I think it's Swann and Miguel versus Wentz and
Dez.
Yep, Dez.
Yeah. So that's really dope. That they're not doing something where they just left and blah blah blah. They're doing a classy kind of thing, saying you guys have given us your time and your years, and now you can move on. So I think it's cool. I'm happy for those guys. I think in NXT, if they're booked right, which I trust NXT, I think they should be fantastic, and they'll be fantastic.
I agree. I think they'll be a good fit in NXT.
Yeah.
If Impact truly respected them, they most likely would not lowball them with an offer, from what some of the sheets are saying at the moment. But
Jay, Impact doesn't. How much money does Impact have? I mean,
It's true. That is very true. But Jay, we had a really interesting show. Surprised in regards to the Zelina Vega, which kind of changed around our show a little bit today. And once again, this show was in honor of the 15-year anniversary of the death of one of the greatest wrestlers in our lifetime, the late, great Latino Heat, Eddie Guerrero. Go back if you have the WWE Network or anywhere else, you watch YouTube or anywhere else, check out some of his great work, either in WCW or WWE.
I mean, Corey, look, just talking about him real quick. I know our show has been incredibly long, but whatever. I'm drinking. I don't care. It's Friday night. You think about all the people who talk about him being influences, all these wrestlers who talk about him being an influence on him. Even the style in which they work is similar to Eddie Guerrero. I mean, he is probably him, Shawn Michaels. You could put Jericho in there.
Benoit.
Who?
Benoit.
Benoit. I'll put Benoit in there too. They have influenced this generation of wrestlers.
Yeah.
The wrestlers we've had for the last 15 years were influenced by those, and Malenko to a lesser extent. Those four smaller guys coming to the WWE, making an impact, and obviously Guerrero's impact on the mic, and he's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. It's not even close. And the influence that he's had on so many people. Oh, he was the best. He was the best. I was so excited when he won against Brock Lesnar, to win his first title. He was the best, and RIP to him. So his daughter lives in Chicago, so
there you go.
Which is cool. But yeah, no, so she does burlesque shows.
Cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. So,
very good ring announcer as well.
Yeah.
But Jay, as always, the final word is yours. Glad everyone went out there and voted, and
congratulations to everyone who picked the right side. I think we're done here. See ya.